sometimes you meet people that you know are actually going to build real stuff and do great things, and these are two of them. When I first met Jed, so 5 years ago, wasn't it? I knew Stellar was going to turn into something. I don't know how. When Adam started building Chain with like $40 million worth of investment from serious people like NASDAQ, Visa as well, I knew he was going to build something real. And now we're at a point where you have like a $5 billion network and you're doing some amazing stuff. So thank you very much for giving up the time to come today. I really appreciate it. I want people to understand just how important this is in terms of maturing industry, but before we can get onto the merger, I think we have to have a little bit of background first. So if you wouldn't mind, could you just explain to me a little bit about what Stellar is? And then we'll talk some more about Chain and merger.
Sure, yeah. So Stellar at its heart is an internet-level protocol for payments. The idea is to connect all the different financial institutions and payment providers together to make money work a lot more like the way the internet does. Like today, when you send an email, you don't think about a cross-border email, and we want that same reality to be true in payments. So it is a blockchain-type network. The big differentiator between it and other things is the underlying token is not so important as the fact that you can hold any kind of token into the network. So dollars or euros, Bitcoin, any kind of other asset can be represented inside Stellar, and there's a way to exchange these assets for each other. And this allows for interoperability between all the different financial institutions.
What was when you originally created it? What was your sort of idea of what it would turn into? At the very early days, what did you think you were going to do with it?
Yeah, so just that, just in the same way that the internet kind of like leveled the playing field and like kind of democratized access to information, we wanted to do the same thing with financial activity. Yeah, and this has like kind of benefits for everyone in the world, but probably the most benefits people that are left out of the current financial system.
Adam, Chain comes from kind of a different direction, so if you could just fill people in on what the origins of that were.
Sure. I feel like we're on a late night talk show, by the way, where he's the main guest and I'm the off-camera guy who keeps chiming in. So Chain had the same, basically got started around the same time as Stellar actually, and had the same vision, which was that there could be a new medium for financial assets that could be transferred over the internet. And so very similar vision, but we took a different starting point, which is instead of building the network first, as Stellar did, we went to the endpoints. In other words, the institutions that would connect into these new cryptographic networks. And at the time, when we started Chain, the only public network of this kind was Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is actually not really well suited to anchoring and transferring existing assets. It's designed for a single asset known as Bitcoin. And so we said, well, let's start with the issuers or the institutions that are dealing in currencies or securities or loyalty points, and let's begin building infrastructure between them and keep our eye on how these public networks evolve. And it didn't take us that long to realize that Stellar had sort of nailed it in terms of the right balance of being a public network, which means one that's open and decentralized, but also very well suited to the types of assets that our clients were digitizing.
But what is it? The people you like? This is Visa. This is Citi. This is people that already have these big networks. Like, what is it that's attractive about this way of doing things? Why are they interested in it?
Sure. So I think as a general question, like why are financial institutions interested in crypto and blockchain when they're the incumbents? And there's really fundamentally two reasons. One is there is now a recognition that these networks are on an inevitable march to be the fundamental rails upon which value moves over time and in the future. The internet did not really fundamentally disrupt financial services because there wasn't a format or an architecture that could move value the way it moved data, but that's changed over the last few years. And so there's this sense of, well, this is inevitable, we better get on this train, or else it's going to be a threat. And then the other reason why institutions are interested is because even when you're an incumbent, like a Visa, there are plenty of markets that you are not an incumbent in, and where you could be a challenger. And so for most of those institutions, they're leveraging this technology because they're actually acting like startups, challenging markets in the same way that actual startups are challenging financial services more broadly.
So in theory at least, Jed, if we have networks that trade tokens which represent all sorts of value, we trade in a kind of money-like way without the traditional pyramid settlement, that makes for cheaper and more efficient markets. I have a feeling it might also potentially make for better regulated markets as well because of the transparency aspects which people don't talk as much about.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, it should be, this should give regulators comfort because now there's this kind of one protocol that they would have to understand rather than when they send stuff across border now, it kind of gets lost in the mix. They actually don't know where the money is a lot of times, whereas this, it's all kind of tracked and clean between the different institutions and everything is accounted for and it's all hashed and clear.
So you were guys that were building serious stuff, but from different directions, but you came to the obvious conclusion that there were some synergies here. We're talking about technology, but I'm just curious about some of the kind of people aspects of this. I mean, you guys knew each other before, for sure. How did it sort of get started? You like meet in a bar or something? I don't know about mergers, how they
So, yeah.
How did it all start?
So, I mean, like we mentioned, both of our companies started around the same time, a long time ago in cryptocurrency history. I think I met Adam right when he was raising money for Chain. And I've always liked the team, and I've always respected what they've done. I think both of our teams have taken very similar, high level approaches to the whole ecosystem, where we want to build something very real and not get sucked into the hype. And actually, if these technologies are going to be successful, we need to make sure that they work in the real world. And we've always kind of taken that approach first, rather than what is cool technically.
But were you thinking I need to make an acquisition, or was it more you kind of just got talking and there was something more organic about it?
It was fairly organic. I think we both saw that we had pretty complementary pieces of the puzzle. We had this public network. They had done a lot of work on the endpoints of the network, like you had mentioned. What we're building, there's a lot of work to be done, so we had to grow the team a lot, so it made sense to kind of combine efforts rather than kind of work across purposes. I think in general in the cryptocurrency space we're going to see more consolidation because there's lots and lots of projects, lots of smart people doing lots of things, but a lot of it could stand to be kind of more direct.
I mean, conversely, I have to say, a lot of the stuff that's going on is, it's quite stupid, really.
That's true. Well, there's lots of stupid stuff.
But you make this decision that you're going to kind of get together. But that's you guys. But then you have, teams and boards, and you have to make something work with the people. So how did you get people together?
Yeah, I mean, there are a whole bunch of realities of a merger that have nothing to do with crypto or building the financial services of the future.
But it's just
there's 100 people in a room, and it's like a shotgun wedding where everyone is now hey, here's your new family. Get to know your new step siblings here, and you're going to be working with them. And so one of the things we did is before we closed the merger, but when it was inevitable, we created a survey with 30 different values on them, and they were actually continuums. So we would say, do you care more about speed or aim? Do you care more about the journey or just the destination, the experience of getting there? Do you care about maximizing profit or maximizing kind of the social impact of what we're doing? And so these sort of things that are tensions with one another, and we asked everyone, and then
Interstellar as well.
At both projects, both companies, and then we compared to see what was the starting position of both teams from a values perspective. And it turned out that, fortunately, and I think this sort of because of Jed's DNA and mine in terms of what we built, that there's about 80% of the values where there's a high degree of overlap.
That's cool.
And so we were able to take that and use that as the basis for a new set of values that we could start on day one and build around. And where we were different, I think it also highlighted why we wanted to work together, because there were things about what Chain did and there were things about what Stella were working on that our respective organizations just didn't do well. And so it was sort of an output of a different approach to thinking about what matters. And so that was just a nice way to start the team in a sort of transparent way and not have this sense of, well, the other people are different from me and that's a bad thing or that's weird.
So it's pretty smooth, basically. You haven't found any huge problems putting the two groups together.
Huge? No. It's as people, I'm sure many folks in the audience have been through mergers or consummated mergers, like, if it's smooth, that means that you're ignoring something, right? You're not paying attention, but so far it's gone well. Yeah.
It's okay. So you built it. What is it? What did you build? What is it? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So the quick nomenclature is a company called Chain, and there's a company or a foundation, the Stellar Development Foundation. And the foundation, I'll let Jen speak more on this in a minute, but long story short, they set up a for-profit entity that they endowed a year or so ago. And it was the for-profit entity and Chain that came together. So the foundation is still a separate and independent entity. And Interstellar is the new name. We've retired the Chain names and the old Lightyear brand, and Interstellar is the name of the for-profit that works on stellar projects.
So, Jed, what is the central vision for Interstellar?
So, basically, so there's Stellar Development Foundation, like Adam mentioned, and there's Interstellar, and I think they're both working towards the same ultimate goal, but just kind of two different sides of the problem. And Interstellar is much more consumer-facing, and the idea is that we are going to build the killer apps that people have been waiting for blockchains, right? So we're going to take a very
Give us an example of one of those.
well, for instance, we just launched this application called Stellar X, which is a front end for our distributed exchange. Stellar has this built-in distributed exchange, and Stellar X is, it looks like, I would say one of the better, it looks like Kraken or Poloniex, one of these cryptocurrency exchanges, but the back end is the Stellar network rather than a database.
Right. So people on the network can exchange these but there is no exchange in the middle that they're.
That's right. Yeah. So there's an essential party in the middle, and it kind of exposes one of the really unique, awesome, powerful features of Stellar, which is this decentralized exchange. And in our view, that is one of the legitimate use cases of blockchain. And there's some others that we're working on as well that we should announce.
It may not sound it to people, but actually that's kind of more radical than when you're kind of saying, we're building this decentralized. But decentralized is radical in design, right? So what you're doing is actually really pretty different.
Yeah, I think it's quite different. I mean, I think the other big different approach is that they're actually building the use cases rather than kind of building this general platform where we're hoping other people build the thing, which is an approach of a lot of these protocols.
I'll give you a few examples. So crypto is still this vast frontier. It's very experimental. And it's very similar to, say, electric cars or drones or machine learning. And if you look at the history of for-profit companies that have taken on frontier technology and tried to commercialize it, the ones that were pure platforms that simply said, we're going to build a platform and other people will create the killer apps, most of those did not go well, right? If you look at electric cars, Tesla beat Better Place, which if you don't know Better Place, it's $1 billion. They raised $1 billion to build an electric car platform to enable automakers to build electric cars. In the drone space, a company named Airware, which was a great effort, raised over $100 million from leading VCs, but trying to create a drone platform, again, to enable other people to create killer drones. Wow, that was a bad killer drones. They weren't trying to create killer drones. Killer drone apps. Didn't work out. And yet the company that's doing the best in drones, DJI, basically recognized that right now the killer apps for a drone is to be a camera. So they're basically a flying camera company. And so we're going to take the same approach as Jed mentioned, which is, and this is unique to Interstellar, right? The foundation can't do this. But Interstellar can be very opinionated about what is crypto ultimately for, what can Stellar uniquely do, and therefore, what should we go out and build and bring to market